I think James is going to dot our other speakers back up onto the screen, and we're going to kick off into panel. While we're waiting for everyone, Rebecca, there's a question specifically for you that I'll fire directly at you from Ben Lang, who's put in the comments. Sounds great, Rebecca. Is there a greater risk an email will go into junk if there's a video or rich content within it? Perhaps you could answer that one.
It is a great question, and it all depends, right? So a lot of companies will have pretty strict firewalls, but actually putting a link in the email is no different to perhaps having some like rich media or text at the bottom of the email signature. So it's not a problem that we see a lot with our clients. It does happen occasionally, but you can always kind of do a normal sort of email and put it in the second step of your cadence, for example. And obviously, we also integrate with LinkedIn as well, so you can always send a video message through LinkedIn, a direct message if you're connected to the person. So there's ways around it, but generally speaking, it's not an issue that we see very often.
It's really good to know. Thank you. Thanks for the question, Ben, as well. Appreciate it. So, guys, firstly, pat on the back. Hosted and been a part of these events for a couple of years now, and I think that's the most on time we've had it. So good, kudos to you all for sticking to time today. Gives us lots of time for questions. James might send me a note and let me know how long we've got exactly, but I'll kick into questions first and foremost. Now, all of you threaded something about people and culture within your talks in one way, shape, or form. And Abby, in particular, you talked about the Great Resignation. The irony of this is that in a market where we've got talk about the Great Resignation, we've also got talk about it's really hard to find people. So technically, they're leaving businesses and going somewhere. Where on earth are they going? I'd just be keen to just go around each of you and just get a sense of how you're seeing that market at the moment, how much of a challenge it is for you finding people versus people moving on from the organization in a very new market for us all. Abby, I'll come to you because you touched on the Great Resignation first, if that's okay.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. I mean, right now, as you can see, I'm hiring 8 AEs that need to be hired today. And what we're finding is really, if you have an okay job and then you're telling them you're going to leave, your current employer will, potentially offer you a promotion or additional salary to stay, which is great because, every employer is in that same predicament. So I think really as a candidate, you need to fully understand what you want out of your career and you need to stay firm on that. So that's what we're seeing. And I appreciate it, right? Because I wish I was at the start of my career when it was like this. But I appreciate what's happening right now, but it's a very tough market to hire new people.
Anders, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think this is a very, very interesting topic. And I guess there's more demand than there is sellers out there to be filled. So it feels like it's more a natural thing that there is more sales teams that need sales reps than there are reps out there. So that is one. I also think the remote setup that we had during COVID just exploded the number of possibilities of possible employers that a sales rep can work for. So that has also changed a lot. But I'm a little bit old school. I also think that we maybe as sales leaders and business leaders need to maybe focus a little bit more on how actually nice it is to have a person that is loyal and actually stays for 3 to 4 or 5, even 5 years in a company. I think that says a lot about that person, and they get so much more deep into that company and is a part of a growth journey. So sometimes it feels like we're maybe putting too much value on maybe careers that have fewer months on each company. So that is at least what I try to find, and I think that
Chris, I'll come to you.
That's a really good thing.
Thanks, Anders. Chris, I'll come to you. Any take on that?
Yeah. So I definitely agree with the sentiment around the war for talent. I think that there's 3 things we've probably found that we've really needed to double down on in the last year in particular. One is speed. So the speed at which we need to move through the interview process has needed to be shortened enormously. So one thing that we've done is, whilst trying to retain the employee experience, which I'll come on to in a second, we've tried to compress our recruitment cycle down significantly. So an initial call with a VP for like 30 minutes just to talk them through peak and let them ask any questions to check it's a good fit for them. We can sense check cultural fit. and then we move on to like an hour and a half, 2 hour, try and compress the first and second interview together, and then move directly to a founder interview. And we try and do that in about 2 weeks. The second thing is probably we've needed to hit more channels than ever before in terms of creating talent pipeline. So, and what I mean by that is like really doubling down on the best recruiters in the market, really doubling down on like employees putting out videos to capture the imagination of people on LinkedIn and things like that, which is why I love what Abby was talking about as part of the hiring experience as well. And the final thing I'd say is thinking about the employee experience as we do customer experience. And I think both Abby and Rebecca have touched on that equally. But putting the same amount of effort into thinking how do we ensure that the candidate always has like all of the assets at their disposal to understand exactly what the benefits are of making the move, answer any questions they may have, make them feel comfortable about what is a huge moment in their life to make that transition. So all of those things together, I think, have helped us gradually get to where we need to be, but it's not been easy at all over the last year, and we're only just getting to like the volume of people we want. Thanks, Chris. Rebecca, anything to add?
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to work in the talent solutions business at LinkedIn. So this is a topic that's very close to my heart. So firstly, just do a bit of an audit on your employer brand. Like, what is it? What are people seeing? Like, what's attractive to you as a business? You really need to make sure that, people can see who you are and how authentic you are and what the opportunity is there. Absolutely I couldn't agree more, Chris. Get a great recruitment partner, whether that's an internal person that you're working with or an external business. Pipeline. All right. Okay. I'm really kind of deliberate. I will go out my way to meet with salespeople, whether I'm working with them and being, kind of mentoring them or anything like that. So really think about how you build that pipeline so that when you do have those roles available, you've just got a constant stream of people that you can tap into. And the other thing as well is just I have to say around diversity. Okay. Don't always look for everything that's already in your sales team, right? Okay, be creative. Think about people from different backgrounds, different experiences. Hire for potential, not always just because they've been an account executive in a SaaS business. Some of the best people that I've hired have come from diverse backgrounds. So yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. And I think I'd like to, if it's okay, take us back to 2 points or a point that's been touched on by both Abby and Anders there. One is, Abby, in your talk, you talked about the 17% attrition. I told you I'd take you back there if I could. And Anders, you just touched on the loyalty of people at a time where it's hard to attract talent and keep that pipeline full. Suddenly, retention of existing employees becomes a more important strategy. Just be keen to understand. I'll go round again, just a minute each. What are you doing? What are you thinking about in that area? What have you found that's worked? And Abby, for you, 17%. What do you think is contributing to that? What are the things that are, the biggest things that are contributing to that? So, Abby, I'll start with you again, if that's all right. 17% is great. How are you doing that?
Perfect. I love being first. That's great. No, I think, okay, so this might sound cliche, but it does come back to our values. Like, one of our values is we take our work seriously, but not ourselves. Like, I mean, that resonates with people, right? We care about everything we do. We build trust through transparency. Like, we're always moving forward. Like, we really embody those at OwnBackup, and we have the best product in the market. So, and it's not a nice to have, you need to have, a Salesforce backup. Microsoft, you need a backup. So I think it really comes to the company culture, like everyone says, but really the product too backs it. So it's like, why wouldn't you want to be at OwnBackup? Why wouldn't you want to grow with them? It's a unicorn. It's just a great place to be.
Brilliant. Rebecca, I'm going to come back to you and mix the order up, because otherwise I'm just going around the same route. And what are you thinking about keeping people? Because I know you've got a small team in EMEA that's growing quickly, huge over in Canada. But what's the perception on keeping those people? What's the strategy for doing that?
Yeah, I think to Abby's point, I think culture and values are so important. That's what keeps people in businesses, as in my experience. I think it's about creating an environment that is psychologically safe for the team, and that they understand that they can come and talk to you about things. And really, it's about people want to develop, they want to progress, they want to keep learning and move forward. So really being deliberate around how are you putting them on that development path, where they've got goals that they can strive to, and you're supporting and coaching them through that, but then also that you're giving them interesting things to do. I call them kind of extracurricular activities, like interesting projects that they're doing that's having a real impact to the business, and creating that environment of collaboration, and that they know what their impact is to the business. I think that's key.
Thank you. Chris, you're right to go next. Anything to add?
Yeah, I agree massively on the points around values and enablement. We talk a lot about every single rep, every single SDR, every single pre-sales consultant should be worth more and more valuable in the market at the end of a year than they are at the start of the year. And it's ultimately on us to make sure we enable them and coach them to be more effective and more valuable. The one thing on top of what Rebecca and Abby have said is around vision, like having a really compelling vision. That there's a lot of noise in the market currently, and one of the big things at Peak, I mean, we're pioneering the most important B2B technology of a generation in the decision intelligence platform. So having that compelling vision that people can wrap around and see and kind of it resonates on a daily, weekly basis when you're talking about the goals of the company and the OKRs that you're trying to achieve.
Thank you. Anders, I'm keen to come to you because you touched on this about people that have been there 3, 4, 5 years. Of course, as a reasonably young organization, that's really hard. You've got a team of people that have only been there a couple of years max on the most part when you're that early stage, but growing quickly. So loyalty becomes really important because you haven't got those people that have been around a decade to teach others. So I'm guessing you brought it up. It must be a key focus of yours.
Yeah, I think everyone tries to do that, right? And we don't always succeed. We have our attrition too, but I think to touching upon loyalty, I think it's a trait that I really think is really nice, and I think that we should value it more as employers as well. So everyone should be able to have a nice dialogue about what is their next step, and that we believe in them, and that everyone feels like it's okay to have their ups and downs. That's the profession we're in. But stick around, and then the future will be bright. So I think that all of us in the sales community would elevate and reach our goals if the general attrition would be more maybe in the 20s rather than the 35 that HubSpot says that the average is. I think it's just super high. We need to get that down somehow. That's at least.
Thank you. Are you all hiring at the moment? I know, Abby, you are. Rebecca, I know you are from our other conversations. Chris, Anders, you're hiring at the moment, I assume?
Oh, yep.
Yeah. Everyone,
always.
Always. So here's an interesting concept. We're always hiring. We're always on, and it doesn't feel like we need 1 or 2 people. We need a lot of people across all of our organizations this year. We're all going to be out there battling in the market to try and attract people and bring people in, and it's getting harder and harder. Where's the point of compromise? So, Abby, your point is all around giving people the best experience, but also making sure you're getting the right candidate. There's a temptation as a sales leader to start to compromise on quality at some point because you've got quota to hit, you've got growth goals to hit. And do you need a bum in the seat who's maybe 80% right instead of 100% right? I'm just keen to just throw that out there. I won't give you my opinion on it, but maybe just understand whether you guys have a backup plan that at some point you have to start thinking differently about it. And do I need to change the types of people I need? Do I need to compromise? Do I need to start with people who are earlier stage, less experienced, to just try and drive that head count and get activity happening? Abby, you're nodding away. Sorry to come to you first again, but I will.
Yeah, no, but you're saying all the right things. And so it's 2 of those things, right? It's about, since COVID, location really doesn't matter. Let's rethink how we think about being in office and not. We all want to be in the office together. That's great. So let's make it happen. Number 2 is, I'm not going to sacrifice on quality, but what I will do is if I find the right candidate that doesn't have enough work experience, I would rather hire them. So now what we're doing, just like you said, earlier stage in their sales career. So I see the attributes that we want on the team. Yeah, you're hired. So not going to sacrifice.
Yeah. And what about paying more? Are you going up the food chain in terms of salaries and that kind of stuff to make sure you win those people in early if they're out competing, looking at other jobs?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like sales. You're not going to lose on price, right?
Yeah. Fair enough. Anders, I'll come to you. What about you? What are you? Would you plan on compromising, or are you holding your standards high and no compromise?
I think if we only recruit the ones that we are 100% certain of, then the speed is probably not there. We need to, maybe 80% is maybe a little bit too low, but if we're in the 90s, I think that's good to go. we try to have a scientific approach to recruitment as well. So we always do, of course, different tests. So we don't just look at the CVs and the background, and then we also do live interviews where they are actually, we can see them how they are actually doing, conducting sales meetings and so on. So we try to hire a lot on personal skills and what their abilities might be in the future, rather than where they are right now. And so I'm always willing to give especially maybe a junior candidate a shot, and that has worked really well in the past as well.
Chris?
Exactly the same as Abby. No compromise, and very similarly, we've increasingly given opportunities to more junior members of the team that have actually turned out to be incredible, and really pushed the standards of what we thought was possible within the team. So I'd massively encourage that. If you've got some absolute firecrackers in your team that are pushing you to have the opportunity to be an AE, as an example, give it to them. And then, same as Rebecca said, looking at transferable industries or looking slightly outside of the typical blueprint to see if there's other types of candidates we can find.
And of course, that internal promotion drives the thing that Anders is talking about, which is that loyalty piece, because they're moving forward faster. But of course, be careful of the promote before they're ready piece, which I've seen go wrong several times. You promote people to the point of failure and they leave very quickly. And it's finding that balance. But I was having a conversation with somebody today about the fact that there are often people internally, we look at them and hold them to different standards to those that we would out externally coming in for an interview. For some reason, it warps our thinking. And I think it's a really good sanity check to just step back from it sometimes. Rebecca, sorry to dive in there. Anything to add on this topic?
No, I'd just say, I've definitely, I've made bad hires in my time, and I've learned my lessons. So there is no compromise. You always try and strive for perfection, but it's not realistic. And every now and then, you do get kind of like some people through the net who maybe weren't right for your organization. So no compromise. And we've spoken about this before, but the 4 things that I kind of look for, the 4 attributes, so curiosity, commitment, and that's commitment to themselves and to the business, coachability, and then also collaboration as well. So if they've got those 4 things, then I can work with them and we can do great things.
Really nice. Well, guys, look, thank you very much. And there's some great points from all of your talks that I've written down and taken away. And I'm sure that the audience has. There was a question I didn't manage to throw in about partnerships. Rebecca, thank you for taking the time to answer that in writing in the comments. Guys, if you have partnership teams and you're seeing success in that, Benedict has posted a question up in the comments at 4:08 p.m. Asking about collaboration between sales and partnerships. If you've got the time to just add a few comments and you've got a partnerships team that's successful, I'd love for you to do that for Benedict. Other than that, thank you very much for helping with the answers to those questions and for your talks today, guys. Very much appreciated. James, I'll hand back to you.
Thanks very much, everybody. I really appreciate your efforts. It wouldn't be possible to put on these events without the speakers. So round of applause. And if we can get some round of applause from the audience, just to highlight how fantastic it's been to have a really well-run, organised event. It makes it a much more good, positive experience for the audience when it runs on time. And so I'm glad that we've run on time today. Just to highlight that Sales Confidence will be back in person on the 23rd of March at the Andes Hotel. So we'll be running our in-person events on the 23rd of March at the Andes Hotel. I've left the link in the comments so you can buy your tickets now. We will expect about 200 people in person, and it looks like COVID's clearing up, at least here in the UK. So hopefully there's more opportunity to network. I just had a private comment from someone saying how good it is to provide these type of events to provide connection, because so many of us are at home not connecting with people as often we were before. And that's the reason why we do in person, to give you that opportunity to build your network and see what others are doing in the industry and have a drink, because that's a lot more fun than just sitting at home in your pajamas. So thank you very much once again. We're now going to move on to the networking. So there's an opportunity to see, there's a tab on the right called networking. Speakers, you'll have to log into where we registered to get access to the networking section. And there's a networking tab. Obviously, as speakers, you're going to get a lot of the audience that are going to want to talk to you. So do hang around for 15 or 20 minutes or so and say hello. And that's a wrap. So once again, thank you everybody for being involved. Thank you speakers for your time and contribution. And thank you to the audience for coming along to our event today. Take care, everyone.